Welcome to Sister Friends. I'm Angie Gray here with my amazing friend,
ReShonda Young.
And together we're diving into what's at the heart of it all, relationships.
From finances and family to the ups and downs of life partnerships, and even those relationships we have with ourselves. We're here to talk about the real stuff.
We're not shying away from the hard conversations, we're leaning into them because we believe that when we start talking, we start understanding.
And when we understand, we grow in empathy, compassion, and connection.
So grab a seat,
grab a friend, and let's
get into it. Okay.
All right.
Here we go.
Take two.
Yes, take two. I'm Angie Gray.
And I'm ReShonda Young.
And we are Sister Friends.
All right.
Here we go.
So for today's episode, we are going to get to know Angie a little bit better.
Hey.
Yeah. So
yes. And so we have had some feedback from our audience. Thank you very much, guys. That reminding, like my kids reminding me that, hey, not everybody knows you. You know,
right.
Like our community probably knows us and some other people, but so they were saying even they would really like to know us better.
Yeah.
So for the beginning of the year, we decided let's interview each other. So ReShonda's going to interview me today. And
next time you'll be interviewing me.
Yeah, so it'll be fun. And I was saying that I was a little bit nervous this morning, weirdly. I feel like I'm an open book and I love being able to share anything about my life with people. But it's going to be good.
It is.
So hi.
Hi. So, all right. So we're going to start at the beginning.
Okay.
And just want to know, like, where are you from?
Where am I from? Well, I like to tell the story that I'm a true Southern Belle, and my kids are rolling their eyes right now. Absolutely, my husband. But I was born in Cherry Point, North Carolina.
Okay.
My dad was a Marine, and so they were a newly married couple, and she was preggo and on the base, and I was born there. I didn't live there very long. I think not even for a year. But I like to claim that I am a Southern Belle. Bring out my y'alls whenever I can. So that's where I was born.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then about your siblings, how many siblings do you have?
I have 4. I'm the oldest of 5. Myself, and then my brother Sean is 2 years younger than me. He lives here and is married, and they have 8 children between them, and they're amazing. And then I'm 10 years older than my sister Jennifer, and 14 years older than my sister Erin.
Wow.
And then Luker came along, and Luke is only a year older than our oldest daughter, Shannon, who's 39. Luke was adopted from Korea, and he's amazing. And so, we have an awesome family. It's pretty busy. Way spread apart, which has been interesting.
Yeah, so I was going to ask, you've got the one brother, Sean, who's local.
Yep.
Where are the other 3?
Jen and Aaron are in Portland.
Okay.
Yeah, Portland, Oregon, with their husband and longtime partner, Jason and Brandon. And they love it. They don't have any kids. They have very full, amazing lives. That's a fun story to talk about too. We'll have a lot of things we could talk about. But so they're in Portland, and then like I think I said, Luke's in Chicago. Oh no, I didn't. Luke's in Chicago. He's been in Chicago a long time. He's 40, which is mind blowing. My little baby brother, who I got to go to the airport. My dad went to Korea to pick him up. And we all were at the airport. I can just see it. We were all at the airport when he came home, and his little hair just sticking up all over the place. And I lifted him up to lifted him up in the air, and he puked on my face. Oh, so that was fun.
Okay.
So gross. But he's in Chicago. Yeah, so they're a little spread out, but I get to see them a lot. At least my sisters, I get to see them a lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So then where did you graduate high school?
High school was Columbus High School. And yes, your nephews went there. Yes.
They did.
Yes.
Yeah, they graduated from Columbus and Waterloo,
Iowa. Waterloo, Iowa, Sailors.
Yeah.
I went to Columbus, and it was good. Graduated in 1985. I didn't love high school. We can talk about that. That's probably important. That is important because we're talking about relationships. And so I was talking to ReShonda earlier and saying that it's fun to be able to talk about this because it reminds me, it's fun for me anyway, because I get to remember like why I am doing what I'm doing, why like my whole journey of my life, even going back to second grade, there's a big memory I share, and I'll probably get to that at some point in their story, but everything led me obviously to here, but I have always felt very drawn, and I kind of had an unconscious at first, but now conscious awareness of how important relationships are to everything, to my well-being and the joy that I have in my life. So anyway, at Columbus in high school, well, also maybe in grade school, I was bullied for a very, very long time in my life, since like second grade, bringing up second grade. That was a big year for me. I had a girl that lived across the street from me, and she's a beautiful human being now. I mean, that's interesting that we crossed paths later in life. But when I was little, I was bullied. Like I had long hair, and she and her cousin would invite me over to play, and I'd be so excited. She was a year or three, maybe 2 or 3 years older than me, and would invite me over to play. Mm-hmm. And one time when they did that, they took me in the backyard and they split my hair down the middle, like like if you're going to braid your hair, you part it down the middle. Yeah. And they each took a side of my hair and swung me around in circles. And then another big memory experience was, asking me to play or whatever, and brought me over and took a comb to my hair and ratted my hair terrible. And so that wasn't fun. But another memory of that, which will come up, and I think has everything to do with so many other things, is I remember, and also P.S. I should have done a disclaimer. I know my kids are going to have memories of me that I won't remember it the same way. Sure. And so, Mom, if you're listening, this day going forward, and I'll probably say it many times, I love you and you're amazing. And so how I remember things is different, I'm sure. And so she's an amazing mom, and everybody knows her, Becky Hargraves, Becky Duggan, Becky Hargraves. Anyway, so I do remember though coming home after that and crying to my mom, and my mom saying, well, we need to pray for her. We need to pray for her. Oh, wow. And, now I think both things. I think that was exactly what we needed to do, for sure. So I'm very happy that she taught me that, totally part of who I am now and how I see people. And also, I wish she would have gone over and kicked some booty, Yeah. That did not happen that I know of. But like bullying, I don't tolerate,
Not at all. Same here.
So that was interesting. And then going into high school, actually also, so I had a boyfriend in middle school, or like 6th grade, I started dating him. And then we dated all the way through, speaking of Columbus, dated all the way through my junior year into high school. And there was bullying there too. God, I wasn't going to, this didn't come up in my mind before, but there was bullying. I had two people that were like 2 years older than me, upperclassmen. Didn't even know who they were. Vaguely knew them because they also went to Sacred Heart. I went to Sacred Heart grade school. Okay. And so they would shove me into lockers at Columbus. In high school. Wow. Do you remember Shakey's?
Yeah, I remember Shakey's.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So we would walk, from Columbus, we would walk to Shakey's after football games and stuff. Okay. And I remember one time Steve, my boyfriend Steve, and I and our little group of friends were walking to Shakey's, and they pulled up in front of us in their car and got out of their car. And these were girls, and were just giving me shit. They were yelling at me and being all tough. So funny because now I see them once in a while and I'm like, oh, that's so funny that happened. Wow. Yeah. And Steve got out that time, and was like trying to protect me or whatever. But isn't that funny? I mean, not funny. Bullying isn't funny, but so weird. So I don't know what that was about, but I had to go to the principal and say things. And so high school was not an incredible experience for me. I did not because of that only. You liked it. though, right?
Yeah, high school was
Yeah.
really good for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm so glad. And my kids all had different experiences in high school as well. Yeah, I didn't love it. I never really felt like I was part of anything. I had a lot of friends, a lot of groups. I was an athlete. I was good in school. I mean, my grades were good. They weren't like all straight A's, but they were good.
Yeah.
I wrote for the paper, all the things. But I never really felt like I belonged. Never.
Yeah.
So
And you were an athlete. So what sports?
I played tennis. Then I don't think it's this way now. I think if you really want to be good, I think probably it's still true that you're sort of pigeonholed. Is that the right way to say that? No, probably not. But when you had to pick a sport. So I loved basketball. I played volleyball. I did all the things. Basketball I loved, but tennis I started playing when I was in second grade. Second grade, big year, big year for
right?
Angie Duggan / Gray. But yeah, so I played tennis all my life, and a lot of you know, at least in our community anyway, Columbus tennis is elite, and they're great coaching, and have put out some great tennis players. So I had to decide, and so my sport was tennis.
Okay.
Yeah, so mostly tennis.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Football cheerleader. I was terrible. P.S. I was the worst cheerleader ever. Like, I had this long curly blonde hair, which that was apparently the only thing I needed to have to pass the test to be a cheerleader. I never knew any cheers, which also my kids and my husband make fun of me now because I also don't know any words to any songs. But I love music. But I would just pretend. Or I would say the words. Yeah, I would say the words to the cheer that I knew, and then I would like pretend like there was a big play happening. And I got distracted. So I'd be like, turn around and be like, yeah, so I can't finish this, so bad. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Hilarious.
I know.
Yeah.
And I was in plays and stuff, plays and things like that were fun. I wish actually I was only in one. I wished I would have been in more.
Do you sing?
I do.
Did you sing?
I do. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do. How did you know that?
Well, your kids.
Oh yeah.
Singers,
they're so good.
But as you're singing around the house, it's like she had to have sang at some point because you have a beautiful voice.
Oh, I didn't even know that I was doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love to sing. And I wish I would have done more of that in high school, but I guess this will be a good segue to I got pregnant when I was a senior in high school.
Okay.
So Steve and I dated through junior year. I broke up with him. That was devastating. I mean, I really loved him, the first love of your life,
Right.
and very much loved him. I don't know what was going on in my mind and all the stuff, when you're young. But I broke up with him, and that was really devastating for me. It wasn't great for him, I'm sure, but like I lost a lot of friends that, we were like this solid group of friends. And so that was a really weird time. And then I got pregnant in January of my senior year. So going through some weird, feeling very ostracized that whole junior year. Yeah, feeling very not part of anything, even more so.
Yeah.
But then I started to date a guy that was a completely different set of people. Like I said, I had friends, in many different groups, not part of one, but a lot of different groups.
Sure.
And Jeff was 2 years older than me, and he was the cigarette smoking, pot smoking, beer drinking, party having on the weekends that everybody wanted to go to, no matter what group you were in, guy.
Okay.
And just, totally not someone guy that I had dated before. But I also very much loved Jeff. And that was also ostracizing because he wasn't like anybody else.
Right.
And, I was this cheerleader, athlete, good little girl, and I didn't drink. I didn't do anything like that. And, I did try smoking cigarettes in high school once or twice, but I was terrible at it, really bad at it. And but I definitely drank some bottled Mountain Dew, like the whole, we called them skids. Like I was a skid, right?
Okay.
That's what we call them, right? What do you guys call them?
We call them grits.
Grits. No, skids, not skids. Grits. Yes. I was a total grit for a bit.
Okay.
I was a grit for a bit. Anywho, God.
Oh man.
Yeah. So I did that. But I think that, oh my God. I loved those friends.
Yeah.
And those friends, I think, like thinking about it now, and I don't know if this is true, but, I think those friends were maybe more authentic, or they felt more authentic to me.
Sure.
I felt less like I had to be someone, although I was probably trying to be like them too,
Right.
But they were very supportive when I got pregnant, and I have great friends from that group of people. But yeah. So where was I with that? Yeah. Oh, got pregnant. Yeah.
Yes.
So got pregnant. No one knew.
Okay.
We didn't tell anybody.
When did you tell your parents?
My parents, I'm not really sure how far along I was when I shared it with my mom and dad, but I do remember that very vividly. Jeff was not with me. He had moved out of state and was living in Wisconsin. And actually at that time, I didn't even know what was going to happen, if we were going to try to work it out, or I didn't know. But I told my mom and dad, and my mom just started crying. Lot of tears, not like, crazy sobbing and stuff, but just a lot of tears.
Sure.
My dad was pretty stoic. My mom was instrumental in bringing the organization called Birthright, if you remember that, to our community. Yeah.
The name I'm familiar with.
Okay.
But
Pro-life, their organization was pro-life, and I don't like saying that. I think everyone is pro-life, but their sort of deal was that they would help young women who were pregnant through that experience. And it was great. It was an amazing organization, and they did a lot in our community. But my mom was really instrumental in that. And so I knew that was going to be tough. That was going to be tough for her. And what's interesting about that is, I think my dad brought up adoption.
Okay.
That was never an option for me. And I know I always knew that I would have kept my baby the whole time, and I wanted to have the baby and all of that. So it was a weird experience. And again, not throwing my mom under the bus for anything ever at any point in time. She's an amazing woman. I don't remember having, I hate to say this because maybe this isn't true, but I don't remember my mom going to any baby appointments with me. I don't remember what that was like. But to tell you the truth, even though it was lonely, it was the best. It was a beautiful experience for me. I don't know that I had another experience to compare it to where it was just me and my baby. Like Jeff was in my life, but we weren't married. I wasn't sure what was going to happen with that. I was in high school, so nobody knew.
Yeah.
Eventually they did, but no one knew. And it was like a secret, And so even though that may sound like that could have been traumatic, and in many ways it was probably, but not consciously. It's not for me. It was a beautiful experience. But I don't remember my mom and dad being a part of any of those appointments. Tennis, speaking of tennis, my, none of the kids at school knew. And then I think it was probably 4 months along or something.
Yeah, because you got pregnant in January of your senior year, graduation in May, and tennis.
Yeah, so tennis, was still happening. I was still playing, and I played state tennis, and we won state tennis. And I was 5 months pregnant, and my friend and doubles partner Sheila McIntyre, and my really such an amazing human being, Kim Hull. Both of those people were so good to me, and they didn't know. And, they didn't know for a long time. And when they did, they were so supportive of me. But yeah, I played state tennis. I look at those pictures now, and it's so funny. No one knew. Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
100%. I mean, I totally looked Brago. And, but that was weird too, knowing that people probably knew. So yeah, that was high school. Yeah.
Okay. So then you have Shannon.
I have Shannon. Yep.
And then when do you meet Todd?
That should be an episode all by itself. So Todd, my girlfriend Julie, who is an amazing human being. I can't believe you guys haven't met. She's my best friend from the first part of my life and continues to be so important in my life. She and I, had our cigarettes and our bottles of Mountain Dew, and, we could drink when we were 19 then. And even though I didn't drink, I worked at a bar. I worked at the Winning Edge.
Oh,
so yeah. I had Shannon. I can't remember how I met Todd. I know how I met him, but I mean, like, what the stuff was happening in my life before that. But some stuff was happening as I started, like, kind of, getting a little crazier, and I was hanging out with Julie. Jeff and I. Okay, so I should say that. So Jeff and I had broken up, and that was also really hard.
Well, going back, was he there for
let's talk about that. Yes. We had a very amazing time for that period of time.
Yeah.
He was very, good to me. He was very supportive. It was very, romantic. We picked out Shannon's name. We lived together for a little bit, and my poor mom watched me as an 18-year-old. Well, I was not, no, I turned 18 in April, right? I turned 18 of April my senior year. So my mom watched me head out, in the summer of that year in his, oh my gosh, I'm sorry, what kind of car? It was this green, hot rod of some sort. I can't think of that. I cannot believe I can't remember the name of the car. But some muscle car that I shouldn't have been driving away in when I was, 7 months pregnant. But, so we lived together for a while, and that was great. And he was there when Shannon was born, and my mom and dad were there when Shannon was born. Okay. And it was outside of being in this very sterile, not comfortable room, and her birth being challenging. It was great. It was a great experience.
Okay.
And then so Jeff and I, we stayed together till Shannon was just about a year old, not quite a year old. And that was hard. He came from a very different family than I did. And, my gosh, we were so young.
It's kind of a sidebar in my head when you were describing this green car. I'm like, oh, it seems like grease lightning.
Oh, yes, kind of, like we were like, I was a wannabe grit, and, Jeff was, the guy, the bad boy. And we drove off in this, what is it? It's going to be like my Die Hard moment. I'm not going to be able to remember the name of that car, but it was cool. Yeah. He liked it. But yeah, that was
and when you
interesting part.
Moved away, where'd you go to?
Wisconsin. He had some family in Wisconsin.
Go to Wisconsin.
Yep,
okay.
Where he was before. So we went there and stayed with some of his family there. And, it was a good time. Breaking up with him was also, I loved him very, very much, and thought we were going to be together. And, we didn't know what we were doing. He came from a family very different than mine and had his own, baggage and trauma and, sure. We're 18 and 20,
right. You were
so
babies.
little. And, so that was hard. That was really hard. Shortly after that, I met Todd. So this time I met him, Julie, back to Julie, full circle. Julie and I went out to, Billy Joe's. Do you remember that bar, Billy Joe's?
I don't.
So again, I wasn't a drinker and I didn't really go out very much or anything. But we went to this bar. It was Billy Joe's, and, Todd was a bartender. And do you remember Days of Our Lives?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so Bo Brady?
Yes.
Okay. So Todd's going to love this part. This is for you, my love. He just looked like Bo Brady. I mean, I certainly think he's better looking, but everybody thought he looked like Bo Brady. He was skinny and this dark black hair and Farrah Fawcett feathered, long hair, bartending. And the story goes that he thinks, like, I didn't drink, right? So I went up and ordered a beer, and standing there, and I don't know. I don't also know how to flirt. I'm really bad at it. Super duper duper bad at it. And I wish, I don't know if I wish, but it's so uncomfortable for me. But I was like standing at the bar, and I was like peeling the label off of the bottle. And his story, and I was just, I don't know, just like hanging out, feeling uncomfortable, peeling the thing off the thing. And his story is he thought I was flirting with him by peeling this label off and making a mess on his bar. So he had to go down and clean it up. And I guess we must have started talking. So Julie knew his ex-girlfriend. He had just broken up with a girlfriend. So Julie knew her, and it was like this whole story. So we went back again the next night, and he said, hey, do you want to go out to my car with me? I'm on break. And so I did. Weird. And I did. And in that one day, in knowing him from the night before, I don't know how it happened. Like, I told him my name, and somehow he asked his sister. We must have talked and shared enough that he felt like he should ask his sister if she knew me or something. And she did.
Okay.
And she told him that I had a little girl.
Okay.
And he brought it up, and he started talking to me about it, and like, it was really cool. And so I thought that was neat. And we had all these connections. So I'm literally from day one. I don't recommend this. Do not recommend this. But pretty much from day one, we moved in together.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. He just started coming over, and I was in an apartment in Waterloo, and I was 19.
Okay. 19.
So he would have been 20.
Okay.
When we met. And so then the first time he met Shannon was a month. It was a month before she turned a year old. Okay. Yeah. So, yeah, that was how I met Todd. And let's just go into that.
Okay.
Should we?
Sure.
Okay. It was from there, it was there's just a lot, right? So I don't want to be jabbering on, but, our relationship was pretty tumultuous. He was, like I mentioned, didn't do any drugs or anything, and didn't drink, didn't smoke. I tried smoking cigarettes, and I would smoke cigarettes, but not very good at it. Looked incredibly stupid, but some people look cool smoking. I'm just going to say.
You were not one of them.
I was not one of them. And yeah, so it was, we dated for, I guess it seemed longer. We dated for like 3 years. Okay. And during that 3 years, it was pretty rough, there were drugs involved. There was partying involved. There was me not being a very good mom. That's hard to talk about for me still. That part of my life is really hard for me. I don't have any shame or any guilt. I have regret. Sure. That I missed out fully. Trying to grow up in that period of my life. My mom, it was amazing. My family was amazing. And Jeff's family was amazing, with Shannon and helping me care for Shannon, because I was working. So I started working at the bar also. So I was working at night at the bar, and just interesting, even going back to high school, feeling like I didn't belong. Sure. That's how it felt. That's how it felt in that time of my life. It was like I was just doing this stuff, and I was always very aware of, like, here's what I'm doing, and here's me, and it was never a good fit, and I knew that, and it was like I was trying to prove something to myself. I don't know what it was, but I was very conscious of that. Sure. And if you ask Todd, he would tell you that, he's this party guy, this bartender, this Bo Brady looking dude, doing all kinds of the drugs that he shouldn't have been doing all kinds of the, can I say all that? Obviously it's 40 years ago. He was like dealing stuff, and I would tell him that this isn't who you are. I would say, this isn't who you are. This is not who I am. And this isn't who you are. Like, we wouldn't go and talk anymore about that. Like, he didn't ask me, help me understand what you're talking about. But he probably, whatever. But I really did know, like, I could totally see that wasn't him, and it wasn't me. Yeah. But it was a rough time. My mom, at the end of that sort of area of my life, or space in my life, my mom, who should have done it a long time ago, and I learned from that with my own children, but came to an apartment that I was living in towards the end of that space of time, and said, hey, we're worried about you. We want you to do this urine drop. And I was, of course, defensive. No, I'm not doing anything, yada, yada. Yeah. But I ended up doing it, ended up going into rehab, inpatient rehab. I do not think, I know that I wasn't addicted to any drugs. Right. But I was I was in a lifestyle that was taking me down a really scary road, and with a child,
Right.
And hanging out with somebody that was dealing drugs. And so I wanted to go to rehab to get away from that.
Sure.
It wasn't because I was addicted to any drugs or anything, but not that, whatever. It was just a really good experience in rehab. I needed to get away from Todd.
Yeah.
Because I loved him, and he was doing all this stuff, and he wasn't ready to do any changing at that time. So I did all that and came through it. And what's cool now is I didn't actually know until later. So then Todd got clean.
Yeah.
His parents came over and, moved him out of this terrible house apartment thing he was living in. He did not go to rehab.
Okay.
But he tells the story, which he didn't tell me until later, a great deal later, that I saved his life by doing that. That he thinks I really did, because it was getting really pretty bad and pretty scary.
But you didn't have any children together at that point?
No, I'm sorry. Yeah, we did not. Shannon and Jeff is Shannon's biological father. And, we were living together. Todd and I were living together, but then I went to rehab. So we were apart for a little while. I was going through that.
Sure.
Yeah. So that happened. Yeah. And then let's see, what do you want to ask me next?
Yeah. So then when did you all get married and decide to start having children?
Awesome story about that. I wasn't sure about things. He asked me to marry him, and I wasn't sure for a hot minute.
Mm-hmm.
And then another experience happened where he had said to his sister, the same sister, I think, he said, well, do you think that Angie would let me see Shannon if we don't get back together? If she doesn't want to get married, would you think she would still let me see Shannon? And when I found that out, he didn't tell me that, I found that out. I mean, I think I was always going to marry him. Obviously, it happened.
Yeah.
Thankfully. But that was a huge like sign for me that he's the one,
Yeah.
So I was 23. Shannon was almost 5, or she had just turned 5, when Todd and I got married. And then he adopted her. Into like a year later, he adopted her, which was really
awesome.
Yeah, it was a really good thing. I'm sure it was really hard for Jeff. They have a great relationship now. Her biological dad, and he's got a great family, and we all are great. And so we're so fortunate, and they're great people. So that's what happened. And then we proceeded to have many other kids.
Many kids.
Many more. Abby, we have Abby. Abby is 32. I'm gonna get this wrong. She is 33. I apologize. She is 30. God, really? Wait a minute. She was born in 91. Does that make her going to be 33 in March?
She'll be 34.
No. Okay. I knew it. Sorry, Abby. She gives me a hard time because I've had a real hard time with that, her age, but she's going to be 34. Christian TJ is going to be 32 this year.
Okay.
Christian is going to be 30. Then we had a little siesta, as we like to say, because we got divorced. All right. So should we go there?
If you want to go there.
Yeah. So, marriage is hard, y'all. Marriage is hard. There's my y'all. I just pulled it out. Yeah. I think I would like to have a podcast where we talk more about the challenges of relationships in this way, like partnership relationships. I think we should. Obviously, we should.
Yes.
With the experiences that both of us have had.
Right.
We were different. Todd came from a family that didn't talk about things, and he wasn't as emotionally available as I needed at that time.
Sure.
And it was really hard. We went through a really hard time. And I think we both can say with honesty, I definitely made choices that were hurtful, to Todd. And there's no shame and no guilt. I'm grateful for. Regret.
Sure.
And also, I know that Todd would say the same. understanding that we both played, 100% or have 100% responsibility. It's quite the miracle, quite honestly. Not going into all the details of it, but it was the hardest thing that I've ever experienced that year that we were divorced. When I went down to sign papers, at the door, when we got divorced, I went by myself and I called him from the payphone at the courthouse and I said, Todd, please come and get me. I don't want to do this. And he said, Ange, you have to do this. This is something that you have felt like you have to do, so you have to do this.
Wow.
Isn't that interesting?
That is.
Yeah, so we got divorced and we never not got along during that year. We went to, at the time we were going to Heartland Vineyard Church, and so we went to the Celebrate Recovery.
Sure.
So we kept doing that, and so we were divorced for that year, did our own personal work, going to small groups through Celebrate Recovery. Always got along. Todd bought a business, the floor to ceiling store. I mean, there was a lot of stuff that happened. Homeschooling my kids. He supported us, which was great. And then when we got back together, we had a lovely wedding. Oh, I will say this. When we got back together, a lot of tangible things to be seen and a lot of unseen things, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
From the outside, it might look like, oh, this is clearly why they got divorced. We know that that's different,
Sure.
but Todd came to where we were living, and he was a person that, was a person that apologizing was really, really hard for. He was very hard for him. And he came to where we were living, and I came outside, and he said, I just wanted to tell you that I'm sorry. And he doesn't say that. Like, I think he's never said that to me before. I wanted to tell you that I'm sorry. And I see now the role that I played in our divorce, in us getting a divorce.
Wow.
And then that was it for me. Like,
Yeah.
that was it. I was like, oh my gosh, okay, there's hope.
Yeah.
Hope is what's tattooed on my backside.
Okay.
And that was it. And so from there, we did all the things, and we had a beautiful wedding, and the kids were all involved, and we had the 4 at the time. And then, so that comes back to your question. Then we had the 4, and then we had a siesta, and then had Levi, Sunshine, and Daniel. And Levi is going to be 24, Sonny's going to be 22, and Daniel just turned 19.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know. It's a lot. Is our time up? I mean, I don't know.
Well,
where are we at?
Oh no, we've got time.
Okay.
We've got time. So there was something that you said in there. I wish I were taking notes. I was thinking, oh yeah, we want to go back to that. So, staying home. When did you all nursing and deciding to stay home, and how did all that come about?
That's a great question too. So I was, first of all, if we first got married, I was going to school and finished up school right after pretty close after we got married. And I started working right away. And I was working during that time of school too. I don't remember where.
Where'd you go to school?
Hawkeye Nursing School. So I started, after I graduated, started working right away. And it was a nurse that I actually worked with, Dolly Steinbrand. Her name came up the other day too. And she was a nurse and lived in Jessup, and she homeschooled her kids. And that was actually the first time I'd ever heard of homeschooling. And of course, then it was not something that people really did, but I was really interested in it because for me, it was an opportunity to help my children have the opportunity to become who they are, figure that out before any outside influence. Plus, I was just selfish. Like, I wanted to hang out with them. I just really wanted to be with them. Yeah. So anyway, had nursing, and 2 things were happening, ReShonda. My nursing experience on the job, I loved what I did. I loved my patients, but it was not a great experience for me. The culture was not great. The same things everybody hears me talk about in my other part of my work with nursing and healthcare and senior living, and very overworked. I mean, we had so many patients. It's even crazy. I would go home and have dreams about forgetting to give meds, and, terrible nightmares, but there was bullying that happened there. I was so stressed out because of that culture, and I did not have the skills to set boundaries or know how to even approach that. My leadership it was very poor. I was sexually harassed. It was bad. And so I was sick, I was stressed out, and I was thinking about how to come home. Like every time I would call in for a low census all the time.
Yeah.
My staffing girl, Pam, was amazing. So it was a perfect timing decision that I was hearing about homeschooling. And having this experience driving back and forth from Dysart, as we lived in Dysart, pregnant with Christian, at the time that I quit that, driving, pregnant with TJ, driving back and forth, falling asleep at the wheel. It was bad.
Wow.
So it was perfect timing for us to have the discussion around homeschooling. And so it was a mutual decision. We both felt like this was, we were spending money on we had a babysitter that would come over because I was working second shift.
Okay.
So there was an intermittent time where we'd have a sitter come over and watch the kids, and then Todd would get home and take over till I got home. And we did that for however many long years I worked, which is a long time. Mm-hmm. And it was a lot. So we made the decision to homeschool.
Okay.
And it was really the best decision we've ever made. I'm so grateful for it.
That is so good.
Yeah. A lot of sacrifices as far as financially, but yeah, it was really great.
Okay. So then from there, I know you have been in Sana Vive, and yeah. So when did that come about? And I was just curious, like, is that part of a way of fulfilling what you enjoyed so much about nursing in a different way?
Oh, that's a great question too. So Sana Vive is an arm of USANA, and USANA is a healthcare supplement company and overall wellness. And I got introduced to them in 1997. And I, again, for me, relationships were always a thing. And I, for whatever reason, understood that this thing with me, my health, was a relationship I had with me and with God, and how I take care of my body. Oh, that's something we can probably talk about too, is my spiritual journey that's the most, it's pretty.
Yes.
Important to me. But anyway, so it was like 1997, and it made sense to me. The founder of USANA is Dr. Myron Wentz, and we heard his story, and how he founded it and what he was all about, and the science. I'm a big, big science girl, as are you. So the science really sold me, the story of it, the credibility, all the things that we looked at, and we started using their supplements in 1997, and, we experienced health even at that young age of I was 27. Is that right? In 97, was I 27? Yeah. Because I was born in 67, right? Yeah. Right. 77, 87, 97. Yeah. I was almost 30. Okay. Well, no, that would have been me 30.
30. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Anyway, 97 is when I started. And yeah, it was a great experience. We were all in, like, all the education. I love the education along the way. Mm-hmm. So during that, I know. Okay. So this is how why I was able to quit my job as nursing. Is part of that time frame. There was, we became associates for USANA, and they were a direct sales company. And so I was able to share these supplements enough and help people with their health.
Yeah.
And I loved that. I loved being able to share the science with people. And so I was earning enough income through that to pay for our health insurance that I was getting through my job. That's what it was. Thank you for reminding me. So it was like, if I could just make enough money by helping people with this, that'd be amazing. That I remember that being my prayer. And I started making $500 a month.
Okay.
And pretty quick out of the chute. Yeah. And so USANA paid weekly. And so I continued to get that $500, and that paid for our health insurance. So that was key. And that happened our whole entire time that I didn't work. And I think that probably grew. I think we were getting about $700 a month is what we were making, and literally doing nothing for that 18 years. In the beginning, I did a bit, and then we just loved, what the company was doing, continued to take the supplements. So then that was really an instrumental part of, after homeschooling for 18 years, Okay, should I segue to that?
Yeah.
So like, throughout that time, I would have periods of time where I would get excited about doing something. I mean, we were busy, right? 7 kids,
7 kids. Yeah, you're busy.
homeschooling. They're all different ages,
And
and
Todd's running a business.
Todd's running a
And yeah.
business. Holy moly. And, also then we bought a store,
And
the
then you
floor
were
ceiling store.
working
And then,
within that business. Yeah.
yes,
Wow.
Todd bought the Holy Spirit. What? Todd bought the floor to ceiling store. And that was a hugely stressful thing for us. We did our best. It didn't go well, but I was there with 4 kids homeschooling and
Wow.
finished my pregnancy, had another baby, Levi, breastfeeding, working the books, homeschooling 4
Wow.
kids in the store. It was really stressful. And then it was it wasn't until Levi was like, they were older, but during that time of raising the kids until Levi was probably 10, he is 20. No, I've been doing entrepreneuring for almost 15 years. So yeah, when he was a bit older, but during that time, I would have periods of time where I felt like I wanted to go do this. I wanted to go, do something, with USANA. I thought it would be like with USANA and help people. I wanted to help people with their health. Learned a ton of stuff and certifications and all the stuff. I would do those little bit of things with USANA throughout those 18 years. And it was really all about prevention, education, and teaching. But I had a really good friend that I knew through USANA. Actually, she lives here locally, Sandy Barnes, and she would say to me, "Angie, your time will come. You're the most important thing that you're doing right now. Your calling right now is your children." And she didn't even say it like that. She had such a gentle, loving way of, she didn't even know she was a mentor to me, but she really was. It was so important for me to hear and to remember that what I was doing was important.
Yeah.
And I believe that with all my heart. I've come back to it hundreds of times this is and will always be.
Yeah.
They will always be my most important job forever and ever.
Absolutely.
So y'all, if you're having kids and nobody's told you that yet, you're just never done.
It does not stop at 18.
It doesn't.
Or 22
or 39.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't, and it's the biggest honor. But anyway, so she would tell me that. So fast forward, my dad died. I was able to take care of him during he had brain cancer. He had a glioblastoma, and I was homeschooling the kids. So we got to go over there and take care of him during that time. So I'm really grateful for that. And shortly after he died, we made a decision that, hey, we wanted to bring in some more income. So what was I going to do? How was I going to, kids were a little older. So I just started teaching. I just started talking about prevention education through nutrition. And I had no idea about social media. I wasn't on Facebook. I mean, maybe I had a couple, I don't even know. But I started inviting people over. As you know, we have a warehouse that my husband uses half of it for his work, and the other half we basically created a man cave with an apartment for kids as I transition with a movie screen. It's not fancy. It sounds fancy. It's not. But I started to invite people over, and thankfully people came. And
I came.
Yeah, you did. That's
did.
right.
Yeah.
We have to talk about that part. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So that's not the first date we had, though. We had a different date, but eventually you came, and you were even part of some teaching that we did. And then, so, that's how it started, is just teaching. And part of the teaching was, I believe, supplementation and micronutrients are really important in our diet. We don't want to need to go into a whole class right now, but the supplementation is really good and important. And I believe that it needs to be quality. Everybody, if y'all don't know, we can talk about that another time, just how important the quality is. And I'd been trained in that. So I knew that. Yeah. And so when that part would come, I would say, the supplements that I use are USANA Health Sciences. And if you're interested, I was never interested in, sales is important. Yeah. I was always very important to me that I did it well. I'm sure I didn't always, because I was very passionate about it. Forgive me, everyone, if I was a lot at certain points in my life, but
it's really because you cared.
It was,
because it wasn't really about the money.
It
so much
was
as
not.
It was about helping people.
It was not. Thank you. And actually, that is what happened. I don't recommend this now, but it was a good lesson to learn. I was very unaware of money that I was making, to the point where I got a phone call from corporate office from USANA, and they were the ones that were like, "Hey, we see that you're doing really well. You're making some good money and you're growing your business, and we're really interested in your story and how you're doing that. Would you come and speak for us?" And so that was like, I had a dream board, or, and I had all these things up there, and I would teach that. And so that was really, really fun to just realize the different things that I was capable of doing. And I experienced so much joy in the work that I was doing, serving people,
I love that.
And to be able to have people come and say, this has changed my life.
Yeah.
I feel better, my joints don't, or whatever it was, and collaborate with other people. That was a really beautiful time. So anyway, then I got to go do that. I got to go speak for them in Las Vegas. Had to tell my story in 3 minutes. If any of you speak, you know that the shorter amount of time you have, the worse it is, the harder it is. And but that was cool. That was really, really cool. And then from there, kind of fast forward, they had me going all over and teaching and on various topics, prevention education.
That's also how you met Dr. Oz, is it?
Yes. And so, such a great opportunity. They USANA asked me to. They partnered with Dr. Oz show. So they asked me to go on and be their nurse representative. And so that was what? I mean, it's so cool when things happen that you're not looking for. You're not, I could have never dreamt that up. I mean, I did want to go on Oprah. P.S.
Yeah.
Oprah. If you're hearing this podcast, I still have a dream of that.
I remember that being on your board.
You do?
I do.
Well, I actually met her best friend, her producer, so I thought, I am on my way.
Yeah.
I'm going to meet her, and I haven't given up. But so that was a huge honor. I mean, I did 2 segments with him. They flew me out to New York twice. He is a huge philanthropist, and whatever you think about the politics piece of it, I learned a lot about him and the work that he does. It's pretty great. So it was an amazing, amazing experience.
Yeah.
So, and then from there, really everything grew. But that's when their segments I got to do with him were called The Future of Nursing. And so it was that, ReShonda, that I get to listen to these submissions from these nursing students who said, here's why I think I'm the future of nursing. The prize for whoever had the best submission was a $10,000 scholarship that USANA was giving to a nursing student. And I was hearing all of these, and I also knew what my own experience was as a nurse, and I knew what my friends who are seasoned nurses were experiencing through interviewing them. And there was this giant chasm between what nurses thought it was going to be and what they were actually experiencing. And what I found was, going all the way back to the first part of the story, is nothing had changed.
Yeah.
These seasoned nurses were experiencing incredible amount of stress and burnout, compassion fatigue, toxic culture, overworked, underpaid. And these nurses were not ready. They were beautifully idealistic. And as we all were and want to be, right? So I just knew that was pretty clear to me that, okay, so I'm going to come back to my roots of nursing, and I'm going to use the training that I have, the experience I have, the passion I have, to love people and to build on what I knew about relationships, that it was so important to learn how to build relationships and build trusting relationships for the most joy. And, how to manage people, I hate the word manage people, but how to build those relationships with people.
Sure.
Boundaries, all that stuff. Yeah.
Okay. And I know I don't know exactly where we're at with time, but
we're
one last thing.
Yeah.
Because it's really important.
Yes.
Your spiritual journey. And I know it's such a huge part of your life.
Yeah.
And so if you just want to touch on that some.
Thank you. How much time do we have? Do you know?
I really don't know.
We could cut this part out. Let's find out.
Oh no, I think we still have probably 5-6 minutes.
Oh, that's it?
Well, before we hit the hour mark.
Okay. We'll cut this part out, but thank you for asking me that. Yes, the spiritual part of my life is the most important part. I literally would not be sitting here with you had I not asked and sought that guidance. I have felt a great love for God and a presence of God in my life. Like the second grade thing keeps coming up, but that was since then. I just really vividly remember being in my room and imagining how my life was going to be and all the things I was going to do. And I've probably shared this already in previous podcasts, but, wanting to first be a nun, that came from my Catholic upbringing, and I was Catholic, wanting to be a nun and serve somehow that way, and then eventually leave that and go be in the Peace Corps and serve that, like be there and help people there. And then eventually I wanted to move to Montana and marry a handsome man and have lots of kids and horses and a horse ranch. And that nice. Some of that happened.
It really did. Just not in Montana.
Just not in Montana. We went to Montana. So I just think, I don't even know. It's just the journey. Maybe we do need to do another part 2 where I can share about that, because it really is. I mean, the journey of understanding who God is just continues to grow, and who I am to him continues to grow.
Yeah.
My search through many different churches, dragging my husband and my kids with me, many different churches that I was asked to leave, and the heartbreak of that, because I was a question asker, and I sought leadership and I sought guidance. And there's so much fear, I think, is what I know now, that the fear of being wrong for some people in religious or spiritual leadership or church leadership, fear of being wrong, fear of being questioned, asking questions that they don't know how to answer. It was hard. I learned to not put people on a pedestal.
Sure.
We have not gone to church for 23 years. I never have missed it. And my love for God and my children's journey with God, has been a remarkable thing to be a part of. I'm so incredibly honored. I don't know. Yeah. Okay. I mean, there's lots of pieces along the way that are, and we actually probably should do a part 2.
I'm thinking,
I think we should.
I think we should too. And I think maybe we could do it just around pies and our journey through pies, yes. Not necessarily exactly where we're at. Yes. But our journey through pies.
Yes. So, yes, you want to explain what you're talking about again, just as a reminder?
Yep. So pies for us is, how are you doing physically, intellectually, emotionally, and spiritually, and a check-in on that. But I think it would be really good if we can do kind of an evolution of where our physical journey, with our physical self started, and intellectual self, and just that evolution of things would be good.
Oh my gosh, that'd be great. We can, if we do this part 2, I really, yes, we will, because I know you've got this whole, we start talking about your spiritual journey, and it is its own beautiful story.
It's its own thing.
And we can just plug that in. So with pies, what our intention is to make sure we're kind of bringing everything back to those 4 elements of relationships, everything being relationship. And so when we do the part 2, we can plug that into that S, that spiritual piece. But thank you for asking me that. And that'll be my most fun thing outside of talking about my family and how amazing they are. And,
yes.
And that'll bring in my journey with you.
Absolutely.
So that'll be good. But thank you for helping me, or, being with me to reminisce through this part.
Yeah.
I hope you guys got to know, that was just the background, obviously. And we will be better, right? We'll be better about trying to kind of catch you up, but I think that gives a good overview of who I am and where I'm at now.
Thank you so much for sharing.
Yes,
I learned a lot about you today I did not know.
Really? Okay. So it's going to be funny.
It is.
And fun to learn about you. I know it's so weird.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you guys for being here. Thanks for tuning in all the time. Subscribe to our thing. We really appreciate that. And share it with anybody that you think will love it.
Yeah.
But I'm Angie Gray.
And I'm ReShonda Young.
And we are Sister Friends. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for tuning in to Sister Friends. We hope these conversations help you see things from a new angle, feel a little more connected, and maybe even laugh along the way.
Remember, whether it's family, work, or those elephants in the room we all deal with, everything really is about relationships.
If you enjoyed this episode, let us know. Share your thoughts, share this podcast with a friend, and let's keep building those connections.
Until next time, stay connected, stay curious, and let's keep growing together.